salad here. Looks amazing and I can't wait to dig in. Now before I get started, I got one shout out, and that's to my good viewer, Zane. Zane is an amazing viewer. Always says such nice things about my channel. So a big shout out to you, Zane. You stay amazing out there in the land of awesome. And as far as the rest of you viewers are concerned, thank you so much for your support. I love you all, and stay amazing as well, okay? So thank you very much. So today, I'm going to be talking about old school audio, man. Yeah, old school audio, yeah. Deep Purple, yeah. I'm a highway star. Space truckin', space truckin'. Alrighty then. So, here we go. I'm going to dig into my lovely salad here. Now, okay, I got this nice dressing. I'm not sure what it is. It might be a ranch or something like that, but we'll see. Not quite sure. I got an egg here, cucumbers, cheese, tomatoes, chicken, bacon. Anyways, it looks delicious. Looks very nice. Hope that doesn't drip too much. So we'll see what this is like here. Very good. So, old school audio. So I was born in 57. My earliest memories are of the little house we lived in, this little hamlet, 7 miles from the United States border, the Montana border, and cherry tomato. I don't know if you can see that lovely salad, but it's beautiful. But anyways, I did a meatloaf video recently, and I forgot to show you my meatloaf, so I posted a picture of the couple of slices of it. So our little house in Buffalo Gap, Saskatchewan. My earliest memories, some of them are my mom was a stay-at-home mom at that time while the kids were in school. She'd have the radio on. You know, the songs I remember songs like, Melt Your Cold, Cold Heart, Hank Williams, that sort of thing. I remember songs like, Sugar in the morning, sugar in the evening, sugar at supper time, that kind of stuff, right? And I was kind of oblivious to it. I mean, I could hear it. It was just, whatever. Just more background sounds, right? Kind of like the fridge running, or, the cow mooing or something, No, I can't remember what kind of a record player they had. They had this real old thing they played 78s on, but I remember they ordered this stereo console. And they ordered this thing, and it came in on the bus, as my mom was saying. And I got a picture of the exact stereo. It's this picture's from our house in Saskatoon, because of course when we moved, it came with us. So this is the same one. But a TV in the middle, turntable on the left side, and the controls, and the radio on the right side. So that's what Mom and Dad would play their records on. Mom liked Kitty Wells and Hank Snow, country music, Carter Family. That's great. But I wasn't really aware of music that much. Other than the fact it was just something I heard in the background. Now we moved to Saskatoon in 62. And, I remember we used to watch the Ed Sullivan Show. And, you'd see Doris Day on there, or Perry Como, I love a parade, this sort of thing, right? I would just sit there, just watch, on the floor playing with my toys. And then February 9th, 1964, introduces the Beatles. Why these guys come on. And for the first time in my life, I could hear music. I mean, I heard it before, maybe I was listening to music, you know, but I finally, there was music that actually affected me. I had to move. I couldn't contain myself. I just, you know, like a little 6-year-old, like this, right? I just had to move to it. And that's for the first time that I ever really became aware of music. And I wanted to listen to it all the time. But I needed something to listen to it on. Now, I had a couple of older sisters. And we immediately started buying Beatles records, you know, get them for, you know, for Christmas. Or my sister had more money, she'd buy these 45s, you know. On the Capitol label, had the orange and yellow, these little 45s. And we'd play those on Mom and Dad's console, but they didn't like the Beatles, didn't care for it. I think they probably thought they were coming from obscene or something. So anyway, my brother finished his basic training in Ontario, Camp Board in Ontario, and the Canadian Air Force, and they shipped him off to Germany, where he's stationed in Germany for 3 years. So at Christmas, he sends home to my sister, my oldest sister, who's 10 years older than me. He sends her a portable record player. You lift up the cover, or I think you can even take it right off. And it had you could play 45s or LPs, you know. And the 45s, you had to have that little centerpiece to put in there, you know. Otherwise, it just wouldn't work. That's good dressing. I've even got some ham here. Oh wow, that's a good chef salad. So, she gets this record player. Oh my God. The Beatles, Morning, Noon, Night, Dave Clark 5, Herman's. Now my oldest sister, she's still late. Elvis Presley, the Everly Brothers, you know. But I was just crazy about the Beatles. And I loved listening to music. I just had to listen to music. I didn't care what device I had, I just had to listen to music. Now, wasn't long she moved out of the house, and the record player stayed behind, at least for a while anyway. And we just played music morning, noon, and night. But then, of course, she came back a few months later and took it back and took it to her apartment. But in the meantime, we could still play records on my parents' record player, their stereo. And my friends, you know, they had access to a record player of some sort. You know, everybody had some kind of a record player. Vinyl. And for Christmas, my brother sent me a transistor radio. A pocket transistor radio. Now a transistor radio back then, the transistor was kind of like the microchip of its time. They were getting away from the big tube radios and making these small little transistor radios. It was a real breakthrough. leather case type thing, you know. And back in those days, it always came with a earphone, you know, like an earbud. We called them earphones back then. And but the earphones are terrible. They sounded very tinny. They were tiny, and well, tiny is like tinny with one end. You know, it's just really the sound was terrible. And you only had one. I mean, it was okay for listening to the news or something, you know, but for music, forget it. Even that little transistor radio, for music, I mean, it was better than nothing. But you got a little tiny speaker like that, you know. But the Beatles always sounded great, no matter what you were listening to them on. I remember seeing this guy in a convertible. I walked by and looked inside, and he hooked the record player up in between the seats. Not quite sure how that worked, but if a record skipped, we would take a couple pennies and put it on top the tone arm to hold the needle down. But we started to collect a real record collection. Now the big stereo console my parents bought eventually ended up downstairs in the basement. My parents, I'm not sure what they were listening to, because there's nothing upstairs. I mean, it was upstairs for years and they moved it downstairs. So I'm not sure. I can't remember what they were listening to. I don't think they even had a record player anymore. But having the record player downstairs meant I could crank it up more. I'm assuming it was probably 10 or 15 watts, but had a couple of oval 8-inch speakers, you know. It was pretty good. I remember in '74 when we moved to the coast out here, my parents told this young fella. He was stoked about it. I guess that was like some retro thing, right? Man, I think they sold it for like, you know, 10 or 15 bucks, you know. What a nice thing that'd take with him. Now for my 11th birthday, for Christmas, I turned 11 for Christmas. I got a Sanyo tape recorder, or a 3-inch reel-to-reel. And I managed to take up a picture of the exact same tape recorder that I had. I love that thing. Tape recorders always fascinated me. And I recorded music on the radio. Listened to it all the time. Put the mic in front of it. You know, eventually what we got was, I remember my parents had got a bigger transistor radio, bigger than a pocket one, but you know, like this big, you know. I found some pictures of something similar, but that had pretty good sound. And the radio stations always came in loud and clear. And we used to take that thing everywhere, ran on batteries. We would take it, you know, to the swimming pool or wherever. And I would just put my microphone in front of it and just record music all the time. Now my oldest sister, the one who had the portable record player, she had amassed quite a collection of 45s. And one year she gave them all, she gave my other sister, she gave all her 45s to us plus her record player. I can't remember wire what the deal was. I guess, well, she was getting married, she was engaged, and she had a guy who had his own equipment and stuff. And so she gave it to us. We were just in heaven. Had all these 45s in a case, and she had recorded, like, she had them all in alphabetical order. This kind of thing was so easy to find, and like a real system, right? And we just played records and played records. Oh man, the Monkees, Barbie and the Raiders, So my little 3-inch Daniel reel-to-reel, I would just record so much music on that. I could listen to the same songs over and over and over. It was great. I'd have my own little sort of playlist type thing. And then cassettes came along, and that was so cool because cassettes were revolutionary. You could suddenly have a cassette in your car, a cassette deck, and they were so much smaller. Worked just as good. No mussing with the tape, the reel-to-reels, nothing like that. Now I remember when I was a teenager, I was still listening to that stereo console down in the basement, but it was better than nothing, I had Deep Purple on there. And all my stuff that I listened to. I was getting into Pink Floyd, Uriah Heep, Jimi Hendrix, Led Zeppelin. So at least that's something to listen to. Better than nothing. And it was stereo, even though separation wasn't that great, Now, I have this friend. His name was Ken. He had a brother named Gord, his younger brother. And his brother Gord had been working for a while. He had worked all summer and had a pretty good paying job with the Department of Highways, I think it was. And he managed to save enough money to buy a Lloyd's stereo. The amp with the built-in 8-track and two small speakers, but it sounded great. Had quite a bit of oomph to it. So I kind of got hooked on 8-tracks. I mean, 8-track was probably the worst format for music ever invented. But they were quite popular. And we used to go over to Ken's place, and his brother Gord had a stereo, and we just listened to music constantly, and it sounded so good. And I thought, I have to have a stereo. I have to have my own stereo. I mean, nowadays I'd be like having a family computer, and you want your own computer, right? Or your own phone or whatever, was in 1973. My brother was no longer in Germany. He had been back in Canada now for a number of years, and he was living in the same town that I'm living in right now. And we decided to come out and visit him. And he had a Panasonic reel-to-reel with the 7-inch reels. And I thought, wow. I mean, I always loved tape decks, like I said, but it blew me away. At that time, I was working in a cinema, making my own money. I said, would you be interested in selling that? Because he said he never used it. He said, I don't even know why I bought it. I never used it. So I said, sure. So I took it home, and I sent him $50. Was it every month for 3 months? Anyways, I paid him his $150. And I loved that thing. It had sound on sound. I used to record a track, like a music track, and then record the same one just slightly behind it. You know, just you know, it sounded great. You know, I experimented a lot with that tape recorder. I had hours and hours of music recorded on that. I'd borrow a friend's album and record it. And that was where I learned that you could record directly, line in, line out. I didn't know that. I had to stick a mic in front of something. And back in the old days, you pretty much had to. If you just had a little transistor and you didn't have the capability to do that. So I started recording like crazy. And then we moved out here in 1974. And I sold that Panasonic reel-to-reel, bought a Sony. I used one off a friend that I met in school. And it was really nice too. And I used that for the longest time, then sold that. But I wanted to have my own stereo so bad. And when we moved out here, Mom and Dad bought a new console stereo, those big ugly consoles, you know. I was right there in the living room. I couldn't really listen to music unless I put on some big headphones. These big jumbo headphones are huge, the big curly cord, you know. But it's better than nothing. I remember listening to Queen 2 on that thing. And then I got a job when I finished school, making good money, working in a logging camp. The logging camp paid really good money, really good. And I was able to buy a stereo. Got myself a Pioneer turntable. I still have all this paperwork and I kept it. Not sure why I kept it. It's like brand new. These are my HPM 100 speakers. I had the HPM 60 speakers before. They were 60 watt. These ones are 100 watt. And got an equalizer for that. And that was the amp I eventually bought, 100 watt. No, sorry, 80 watt amp. Now, actually, I kind of jumped ahead of myself. Before I bought all this, a friend of mine had sold me a Pioneer amp, because he was upgraded. He was selling me a Pioneer amp. It was 60 watts and a pair of 60 watt speakers. bought that. Listened to it for a while, but I remember my buddy said, let me introduce you to this guy. He sells wholesale. And with his house, he had all this Pioneer equipment because Pioneer was really hot at the time. And I thought I have to have new equipment. So he asked me what I had, and I told him, he said, well, I'll bring it up here. I'll give you a few bucks for it, and he did. So I bought my 80-watt amp, my 100-watt speakers. I also had a tuner, an AM/FM tuner. Man, that stereo was the envy. I know so many people, a lot of my friends are so jealous. It was beautiful. I had that equipment for years. I'd haul it back and forth in my pickup truck to and from the logging camp. I was so proud of those big speakers. I had those for I had that system for, oh man, well over 20 years, and I just finally started packing it in. The turntable, I remember I had like a $300 cartridge in it. Wow, did it sound good. I used to hang it from the ceiling. I had a suspender from the ceiling so it wouldn't skip as much, and man, you could really crank that thing up. It was fabulous. Eight tracks didn't last very long. I've amassed quite a vinyl collection, but my turntable was the only thing that was still quite functional. The amp packed it in. Equalizer became kind of, obsolete and redundant, and the tuner was still good. I sold some of that equipment. My turntable and my tuner I sold. The equalizer, I think I may have given that to somebody. The speakers, I kept the speakers for the longest time. That was actually all I had left. Was my HPM 100 speakers. I had those up until just a few years ago. Just a few years ago I had these things. They sounded great. And I sold them because they were just, what happened was, around 2000 and, I guess maybe about 20 years ago, I upgraded and I bought a brand new amp, the Yamaha. Really powerful. I bought a 5.1 system. I had energy speakers, subwoofer, central speaker, satellite speakers front and back. I was still using my HBM 100s in conjunction with everything else because they were like my main speakers. I had two energy speakers up here, two energy speakers back here, subwoofer and the central speaker. I loved watching video. Like some videos, the sound was just amazing, wow. Like a movie like Gladiators or even Galaxy Quest with the sound, the way it was just amazing. So good. And my small energy speakers they sound great. I love that 5.1 sound. Now, of course, they have way more than that. 6.1, 7.1 probably goes higher, but I was happy just getting that 5-1 sound. But listening to music now is so different. You know, when I look back, you know, you go to an antique shop and you see like the old RCA Victor with the big horn. My parents had some of those that they collected as antiques for years. And of course the sound was terrible, but back then that was just probably amazing, right? But audio has come such a long way. I mean, there was amazing equipment back in the 60s, but a lot of people just couldn't afford it. Too pricey. But when I was a teenager, it was mostly Pioneer and Sansui. JBL speakers were very popular. This was a very good salad. Wow. Very tasty. Those bacon bits are amazing. Real smoky. That was delish. That was very good. There's a store downtown. They sell retro stuff. I go in there and look at it once in a while. They got all kinds of amplifiers, Marantz, and all kinds of old amplifiers. Lots of speakers. Turntables. I go in there just to look. He's actually got 2 stores combined. He's got one side and the other side. Just walk back and forth. He's got a lot of stuff, and he sells it. Well, I think for a lot of people, the whole retro thing is very enticing. On Facebook, I've joined some of these groups where they're groups for like people that are really into reel-to-reel tape recorders, because I find old reel-to-reel tape recorders just to be fascinating and beautiful to look at. Just those big, machines with the big reels on them. It's just fabulous. Wow. Well, there it is, my friends. Old school audio. Like I said, it's come a long ways, from my parents, their old console and my little transistor radio, and, that one bigger transistor radio we had, the one that was about this big that we used to take to the beach and to the swimming pool and all that, man. That was like our lifeline. We listened to that constantly, just non-stop. Anyways, there it is, my friends. So I thank you for tuning in. I hope you're all doing well out there in the land of awesome. So you look